You know that person, right? The one who just walks into a room and instantly they own it. They're not just energetic, they feel like a force of nature, blending this unstoppable drive with this infectious charm. Well, today we're going to decode that powerhouse temperament, the choleric sanguine. This quote just nails it. I mean, think about the most effective CEOs or charismatic politicians you can picture. They don't just have good ideas, do they? No, they have this incredible, almost magical ability to sell those ideas and get everyone else fired up about them. That right there, that's the choleric sanguine magic. They are literally wired for influence. So, what's the actual blueprint for this powerhouse personality? Let's peel back the layers and really see what makes them tick, starting with the very first impression they make on all of us. It's all about that fusion. Okay, picture the engine of a rocket, that raw, relentless, get-it-done power. That's the choleric drive. Now wrap that engine in the most charming, people-friendly, magnetic packaging you can imagine. That's the sanguines part. So they don't just launch the mission, they make you excited, absolutely thrilled to be on board for the ride. To really, truly grasp this personality, we have to look at its core elements, and they're about as primal as it gets. You've got the driving, consuming fire of the choleric, and then you have the light, expansive air of the sanguine. So what happens when these two meet? Well, you get something explosive. Now look closely at the raw ingredients here, because this is where it gets really interesting. On one hand, the choleric part is all about control and getting results. Its greatest fear? Losing that control. But on the other hand, the sanguine part is driven by getting approval and having fun. Its biggest fear? Oh, that's easy. Boredom and rejection. The choleric sanguine lives right in the middle of this constant tension, trying to serve two very, very different masters inside their own head. And this is exactly why we talk about blends. Almost no one is a pure type, right? You have your main driver, in this case the choleric C, but it's always flavored and shaped by a secondary influence, the sanguine S. It's that secondary trait that gives the personality its unique texture, its complexity, and honestly, its spark. So what really happens when you combine the raw intensity of fire with the total unpredictability of air? You get a force of nature, for sure. But just like any force of nature, that power can be both incredibly creative and, well, incredibly destructive. It is a true double-edged sword. Notice the pattern here? It's pretty clear. Every single strength has a corresponding shadow. That natural magnetic charisma, it can so easily tip over into arrogance. That boundless, infectious energy, it can just as quickly turn impulsive, even manic. And their incredible gift of persuasion, yeah, that can lead them to sell an idea they're super passionate about, but haven't actually thought through at all. They really are a force of nature, and that force can be beautifully chaotic. If you want to understand a choleric sanguine, you have to know their dual-core processor. They are fundamentally driven by two things. One, the absolute thrill of achieving a tough goal, and two, the sweet validation of being celebrated for it. And on the flip side, their personal hell is a cocktail of failure and being disliked. It's an incredibly potent psychological mix. So here's the big question. Are they just locked into this high-octane, chaotic pattern forever? The answer is absolutely not. And this, my friends, brings us to the most important part of this whole explainer, the critical difference between our raw, inborn nature and who we ultimately choose to become. I absolutely love this metaphor because it's so perfect. Your temperament, that's the raw material you're given. It's the uncarved block of marble. You can't change it. A choleric will never, ever have the natural disposition of a quiet, passive observer. But your character, that's the sculpture. That is what you choose to carve from that stone, day by day, choice by choice, through conscious effort. And here's the key. This isn't just about being a good person in some vague, general way. No, the process is targeted. To build character, each temperament has to focus on cultivating a very specific virtue that acts as a direct antidote to its greatest natural weakness. For the fiery choleric side, that virtue is humility. The choleric is just hardwired to believe they're right and to get angry when they're challenged. Humility isn't about thinking less of yourself, it's about thinking of yourself less often. It's the simple but difficult practice of seeing the truth even when that truth means admitting you were wrong, or, and this is a tough one for them, that someone else actually has a better idea. Now, for the airy sanguine side, the key remedial virtue is constancy. The sanguine loves to start things. The thrill is in the novelty, the new idea, the new connection, but where they're naturally weak is in the follow through. Constancy is that gritty, unglamorous strength to see a project all the way to the end, long after the initial buzz has worn off. Okay, so how do you actually build these virtues? It's not magic. Here's the workout plan. To develop humility, you have to actively fight that powerful urge to always be right. So ask for advice. Practice silence instead of jumping in to correct someone. To build constancy, you have to impose structure on your natural chaos. Finish every single project you start and follow a schedule even when you don't feel like it. These are the daily reps that carve the sculpture of character. So what's the end result of all this hard work? What happens when a choleric sanguine really commits to this path of self-mastery? What does that look like? And that brings us to the ultimate goal. See, it's not about suppressing their incredible energy or trying to turn a powerhouse into a wallflower. Not at all. It's about taking that raw, chaotic, beautiful force and channeling it through a lens of purpose and wisdom. They become the powerful leader they were always meant to be, but now with the stability and insight to make a truly lasting, positive impact. So, whether this sounds exactly like you, or maybe someone you know, it leaves us all with a final question to think about. We all have an innate energy inside of us, and the key isn't really how much of it we have, but how we choose to direct it. So, is your energy an uncontrolled wildfire, burning bright but also burning everything in its path? Or is it a focused flame, providing light, warmth, and direction with true intention?